Last weekend I was in Birmingham with a group of friends. We've been connecting up over Zoom since the COVID pandemic, and we decided to meet in person and just to spend some time together catching up. One of the main topics of conversation was a thing called Chat AI. Now, if you've never come across it before, what it is, it's a computer program, and you go to this program and you simply type a question. The thing that makes it remarkable is that it answers in the way a person would. So for example, you could go on Chat AI and you could say, write me a short sermon about Easter. And I think you would be quite surprised at what comes back. People have really been pushing it to its limits and trying all sorts of different things, maybe asking questions in different languages. And although the computer comes back and says, well, I don't speak that language, it seems somehow to be able to come up with an answer in that language. People have done things like putting in computer code. Please look at this code and tell me if there's any errors in it. And remarkably, it's able to do it. And as we were discussing it and we were meeting up in Birmingham, we tried a number of different things out. We asked it a number of very silly questions. We asked it to tell us some jokes. We asked it what its opinion on things was. What's amazing about this software, it is very much like you're speaking to a real person. It's uncanny what it can do. And it's caused a real stir, and we were talking about the ethics of it. We were talking about how students would perhaps start writing their essays with it, and there's a big concern about that sort of thing. One of the guys, though, said to me, actually, how do you feel about it, Paul? How do you feel as a Christian? And surely when we've got technology like this coming along, isn't that going to replace actually some of what we do as people and the way we interact with each other? It reminded me of the time after the crucifixion. The Easter story is remarkable because there's a tomb and it's empty. It's empty because what we believe as Christians is that Jesus rose from the dead. And that's what we celebrate at Easter. But I'm reminded of the part of the Easter story where Jesus is walking with his disciples and they don't recognize him. I can't for the life of me quite understand why. I think perhaps it was just because they had no inkling of what was going to happen next, and they'd seen Jesus being crucified. They'd seen his dead body being taken down from the cross, and at that point they were completely demoralized. And as we were talking around all of these subjects, and they're not Christians, by the way, none of them are Christians, but it was very interesting how they were relating to this and the questions they were asking. And the thing I came back to was the relationship. You see, Chat AI may be very good at answering questions. It may even answer questions in a way that makes you think, well, it's like a real person. But there's no substitute for actually spending time with a real person. Often my friends talk to me about my faith, about my relationship with Jesus. And it's very hard to know how to phrase the conversation with them. But I think it's a bit like anybody that you spend time with. The more you get to know them, the more you spend time with them, the more you're able to recognize them and who they are. That's why this Easter story for me is so remarkable. The disciples had spent time with Jesus, and yet as they walked along the road with him, initially they didn't recognize him. I think for all of us, there's something about that time that we spend in God's presence, the time that we spend with Jesus and in his presence. For many of us, that's what we do in a church when we come together, when we worship, when we look at God's word. For some of us, we actually find that it's really helpful to get outside, maybe, to go for a walk and be out in creation. For some of us, it's those quiet moments where we sit maybe at the start of the day and we open the Bible and we read God's word and the way that Jesus speaks to us through those things. Perhaps it's the times when life is just a bit tough and others draw alongside us with love and care and patience and grace, whatever it is that we need. But I think my message would be this: there is no substitute for being in that presence, being in that place where we can fully encounter God. So whatever it is for you, may this Easter be a time where you can have that time. There's many things going on with the different churches throughout town. Our own church has many activities going on over this Easter period. But I pray and I hope that for you, just like my prayer is for my friends that I spent time with in Birmingham, that this Easter will be a time where you can once again discover, or maybe for the first time discover, who Jesus really is and the relationship that you can have with him. Have a great Easter, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks.